morning, everyone. It's so lovely to see you all on this. Several of us were chatting brisk January day. It will be normal cold soon, and I'm looking forward to that. Welcome, though, to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Urbana-Champaign. My name is Reverend Beth Monholland, and I have the honor of serving as the lead minister here alongside our associate minister, Reverend Sally Fritchie. We are a people of many ages, genders, histories, bodies, identities, and beliefs, and we are united in our mission to build community, seek inspiration, promote justice, and find peace. As part of building community, we respect each other's boundaries and enter into this space with care. So I invite you to look around the room, and as you interact with folks today, to notice if they're wearing a color-coded lanyard, and if that is yellow or red, to just respect that people might need a little more space. Because we are also an all ages congregation. We have very, very little ones. They're brand new humans here. Some not so brand new humans here. But we welcome then all of the little noises and interruptions that young people might bring into a service. And we will have our REE programming today. So after the time for all ages, which is noted in your order of service, our young people and our RE volunteers will go down to the RE wing. I will say, in case you didn't know, we have some special programming in REE this weekend next. So the nursery's open for kids up to ages 5, and then all the kids this weekend next will be together, 5 and up, exploring what it means to be in good relationship with our animal kin. And today, grown-ups, don't be jealous. There will be cats and kittens for them to explore. If your little one has an allergy, there will be options for them to not have to directly interact with those cats and kittens, but we do want you to know that that's happening today. Again, grown-ups, actually, you can totally be jealous. And then we'll think about how we as grown-ups might get some animal time sometime. So, with all of that in mind, I want you to also remember that our fellowship hall is available if for any reason during the service you need to stretch your legs or you just need more space. The audio feed of the service is being live streamed into there, and everyone is, of course, welcome to join us right after the service in fellowship hall for coffee and kinship. So, I've talked to you for 2 whole minutes. It's your turn to talk to each other. Please embody your spirit. I invite you to rise if you want to and greet your neighbors, wave from a distance. I'll bring us back together with the show. Thank you all for those warm, enthusiastic greetings. Keep that energy alive in fellowship hall later. And now let's take a deep breath together and fully enter into this hour where we get to contemplate and reflect on what it means to be in community. And as Unitarian Universalists across the nation do, we will formally begin by lighting our chalice, which is a symbol of our faith tradition, a symbol of the living tradition, and the spark that unites all life. I've asked board member Jocelyn Karst to light our chalice, and Paul Weston from our worship committee will lead us in chalice words.
The childless lighting words for today are by James Baldwin. The longer I live, the more deeply I learn that love, whether we call it friendship or family or romance, is the work of mirroring and magnifying each other's light. Gentle work, steadfast work, life-saving work in those moments when life and shame and sorrow occlude our own light from our view. But there is still a clear-eyed, loving person to beam it back. In our best moments, we are that person for another. Thank you. And now, if you're able, please stand and join us in singing the first hymn today, number 126, which is Thou Come Thou Fount.
I love that song. I love the melody, and I love the lyrics. It's funny because the original Christian lyrics, which have a whole lot about God and the blood of Jesus, sometimes do get stuck in my head, and I love the Unitarian Universalist rewriting of it. I don't love that we rewrite every hymn, everyone, but this one I love that idea that we together make justice, that we together make heaven here and now with each other, is a beautiful theology. And it reminds me of the work that is inherently needed to make justice real. And as Dr. Cornel West once said, justice is what love looks like in public. And we actually have a reading this morning from Dr. Cornel West. And I'm going to have Julia Cronin come and share that reading with you in just a moment. And I put this reading in for this week and this month where we're exploring liberating love, in this sermon where I'm talking about what we owe the world. And in the week in which just a week ago, Monday, was the celebration of Dr. Martin Luther King's birthday. That became a formal holiday in 1986, which for some people in this room is way longer than they've been alive. And for some of us feels like just yesterday. 86 was like a year ago. But that became a national holiday less than 20 years after King's death. And the interesting thing about that holiday and where we are now with it is, of course, that while King was still alive and in 1964, at the height of the civil rights movement, the vast majority of Americans, all Americans, but particularly white Americans, did not support or approve of King's work. The vast majority of us in our history thought it was moving too fast. The vast majority who even agreed that, yes, the arc of the universe needs to bend towards justice, also felt we needed to bend it just a little more slowly. And so while we have come to venerate Dr. King now here in 2024 and hold him up as this wonderful national hero, rightly so, I want to place that in our real historical context of the conflict and controversy and disagreements that people had around his work at the time. And to remind us that he didn't go around singing Kumbaya and let's all hold hands and make each other feel good. Dr. King was a radical in many, many ways. And this reading from Dr. Cornel West reflects on that radical King. Let us hold that in our hearts as Julia shares these words from Dr. West.
King's revolutionary witness, embodied in anti-imperial, anti-colonial, anti-racist, and democratic socialist sentiments, was grounded in his courage to think, his courage to love. The response of the radical King to our catastrophic moment can be put in one word: revolution. A revolution in our priorities, a reevaluation of our values, a reinvigoration of our public life, and a fundamental transformation of our way of thinking and living that promotes a transfer of power from oligarchs and plutocrats to everyday people and ordinary citizens. The radical King was first and foremost a revolutionary Christian, a Black Baptist minister and a pastor whose intellectual genius and rhetorical power was deployed in the name of the gospel of Jesus Christ. King understood this good news to be primarily radical love in freedom and radical freedom in love. This radical love of an intensely hated people is both liberating and contagious, just as this radical freedom of a thoroughly unfree people is both emancipating and infectious. Like his great contemporary Dorothy Day, the Catholic saint who looked at the world through the lens of her heart, Dr. King understood radical love as a form of death, a relentless self-examination in which a fearful, hateful, egotistical self dies daily to be reborn into a courageous, loving, and sacrificial self. There is no radical King without his commitment to radical love. And now, for our younger folks who might be getting bored at this point, I invite all of our young and young at heart folks to come forward and hear a story. All right. Well, come gather around. You can come up on here if you want. Okay. All right, I'll get closer to you then. Okay, there we go. This book is called Something Someday. Oops, yeah, I've got to mute that. Something Someday by Amanda Gorman. All right. You are told that this is not a problem, but you're sure there's something wrong. Do you see something wrong in the picture? Yeah, what do you see? Yeah, there's trash. You are told that this cannot be fixed, but you know you can help. You are told that this is too big for you, but you've seen the tiniest things make a huge difference. Little ant. You're told that this won't work, but how will you know if you never try? You're told to sit and wait, but you know people have already waited too long. You're told that what's going on is very, very sad, but you're not just sad, you're scared and confused and angry. And maybe, just maybe, a little hopeful. You're told not to hope, but you keep hoping anyway. Sometimes you feel like you're all alone, but someday, somewhere, you find a friend, someone who will hope with you, who believes in your dream, someone who will fight with you. Do you have someone like that? Yeah? Yeah, your best friend? You make a promise to each other. You say, there is a problem, but it is our problem together, so we can fix it together. This problem is big, but together we are bigger. You make another friend and tell them it's okay to be sad. And they tell you, sometimes we'll lose, but that's all right. We'll try again. And so you do, together, working, together, beginning, over and over and over and over, until you're no longer beginning, you're winning. Suddenly, there's something you're sure is right, something you know you helped fix, something small that changed, something big, something that worked, something that makes you feel hopeful, happy, and loved. Something that is not a dream, but the day you live in. Do you have something in your life that makes you feel like that? Yeah? Actually, no. Maybe you can think of something. Something that makes you smile as you tell someone else. The end. All right, thanks, guys. Now you guys get to go downstairs where the cats are, and I'm really jealous.
She loves cats even though she's allergic to them.
Me too.
Something someday. We'll come back to that. But one of the somethings that we do here together to build a community is to make space for all that we carry into the room whenever we gather. In our ritual of joys and sorrows, we trust that sharing our sorrows together in community makes those sorrows easier to bear, that sharing our joys multiplies them. We will have a time later in the service to share some joys and sorrows aloud, and I invite you to write any you want shared aloud on the joys and sorrows cards you'll find in your pews, and the ushers also have them. If you're joining us online, or even if you're here in the room and prefer electronic things, you can email the joy and sorrow to joysandsorrows@uucuc.org. But in this moment, we want to make space for the quietness of our hearts, for what we need to share that we don't yet have words for. We will sing our blessing song, May the Longtime Sun, and I'll invite you to either come up here to the chalice table. We've also set a smaller table in the center and the back. And for your joys, you may place a petal in the water. For your sorrows, you may place a stone. And in the quiet and in the stillness of the music, we will hold space for all that we carry and all that we are. Thank you for your spiritual generosity, my dear ones. Building community is part of our core mission here. And some of how we do that is by engaging in all the many, many different activities that this congregation offers: social action, religious education, small group ministry. You've heard me say this, I'm a broken record for those who've been here, I don't know, for the past 6 months. We have a lot for you to do. And I hope that you find the ways to join in this community that are meaningful to you. And I want to highlight a few things that are going on, honestly, today and this week, just so you don't miss them. But right after service, really right after fellowship hour, our reproductive justice team is holding a lunch, learn, and act activity that is all ages. It will be a little bit of learning about abortion rights and reproductive justice here in Champaign County. And the all ages part is that everyone will be invited to help put together care packages, aftercare packages for clients of the clinics here in town. We've been told those are invaluable for the staff and the people who are receiving care. So grab some coffee and some snacks and chat, and then at 11:45, go down to the Children's Chapel to take part in that important activity. You can bring that to me. Thanks, Sarah. And our racial justice team has been busy at work for months now, engaging in conversations around how this community, the broader community of Urbana-Champaign, and our church as part of it, can grapple with and engage in reparations. As part of their work, they are going to be offering a series of events for us as a community to learn and talk about that. The very first activity will be this coming Tuesday at 6:30 here in Fellowship Hall. It is open to everyone. It will be a screening of a PBS film called, let me make sure I get the title right, The Cost of Inheritance. And then finally, one last thing so everybody knows, we will have an all-ages game night on this coming Friday, also in Fellowship Hall. There's lots of ways that you can engage in justice and in community building, and I hope you find the ways that matter to your heart. So be sure to read your weekly e-news for more information about these, and again, lots of other things, my dear ones. And each Sunday, we recognize our very real interdependence and reliance on each other by sharing also our financial resources. We take an offering, much of which goes to supporting the operations of this church, but because we believe that we are interdependent with other organizations and people, we also share part of the offering we gather on Sunday mornings with an organization doing the work of justice in the world. For our January Sundays, our shared offering is with the Palestine Children's Relief Fund, an organization that has been providing vital medical care to the children in the Palestinian region, no matter their nationality or religion, for over 30 years. And in the current wartime crisis, PCRF has been providing daily resources to those in need. It's just particularly vital right now because as of earlier this week, there are no operating functional hospitals in Gaza. Their work is vital, and I'm grateful that we can contribute to it in whatever ways we can. You can give through our online portal on our website. If you're here in the sanctuary, when the basket is passed, you can give cash or check. And just do know that half of what we collect today will go to sustaining our church, and half will go to that work of the Palestine Children's Relief Fund. Any amount you give is accepted with gratitude. Know that your generosity is a gift to us. I thank you, and our basket will now be passed. Thank you for your generosity. And we will continue our spiritual generosity by sharing aloud some joys and sorrows, of which there are plenty of today. Thank you. Thank you, brave ones, for sharing. This is a joy from Amanda Jane, who, yay! Amanda Jane gets to move into her new safe apartment tomorrow. That has been a long time coming. Yay! A sorrow from Christine, who asked that we please hold her college roommate Karen and her husband Tim in our hearts. Tim has stage 4 melanoma and is having heart complications from the chemotherapy. A joy from Pat McClard. Joy and having fun dating again. Oh, new love. Echoes of that in the room. I love that. This is from Doug, who asked that we please hold his Aunt Judy in our hearts as she is slowly recovering from a broken ankle. A sorrow from Tim and Jerry, and for all of us, remembering our longtime member and auctioneer, Don Denny, who led our auction for many years and who passed away this past week. Another sorrow and death from Julia, who is mourning a family friend who passed this week after learning the hard way that this world does not do enough for the severely disabled. Thank you. Yeah, keep bringing them. Oh, there's some on the table. From Haley, tomorrow marks the 2-month of freedom from a cruel animal testing lab for my sweet new dog, Virginia. Oh. And from Beth, sorry about that, I have to take my glasses off. I didn't have a chance to read it before. Martin Luther King was killed for his and others' work. 20 years, a memorial was put on federal holiday, and now our reparations are in progress here in our UU congregation. That is a joy. Some of those submitted by folks online. From Autumn. A joy to have graduated with summa cum laude from Indiana Wesleyan University with a bachelor's in communication. Yay, Autumn. A joy from Mick. 1 year ago, yesterday, I wasn't sure I was ready to be responsible for someone else's well-being. Then I met 2 little kittens. Kittens are the theme today. And instantly fell in love with them, and they came to live with me. And a year later, I am so glad. And this is a sorrow and a prayer from Autumn and Jade. Autumn's grandma had a fall at the beginning of the year and has been in the hospital for almost 3 weeks now. Please pray for continued healing. From Jim, thinking of our longtime friend Joe, whose memorial service was yesterday. He was a kind and generous man. Continuing our theme of cats. From Sam, he and Lynn are joyful for their cats who are only here in spirit with us today. Cuddle them when you get home. From Maureen, in sorrow for the people of Palestine. And a sorrow from Kelly, my brother-in-law is in the hospital. He is diabetic and has been diagnosed with conjunctive heart disease and has a long journey ahead. And a joy from Kate, who is happily celebrating the birthday of her daughter Eva today. And my joy that I want to share, it's not on the card, is that for those who aren't aware, that Friday and Saturday we participated in a new minister startup, and with our congregational life staff from the UUA who came in, their services were free to us. And I am so grateful for all the different people who participated in that, who built a history of our church on Friday night that was so fun. We'll tell you all about it at another time. And I'm particularly grateful and filled with joy for the board of trustees of this congregation. And if you are a board member and are present this morning, would you mind standing for just a moment? The work this board has done and is doing to live the mission that you have entrusted with them is truly a beautiful thing to witness, and I'm grateful to be welcomed in and part of that work. Would you enter into a spirit of prayer with me for just a moment? Spirit of life and love, I ask a blessing for all that we carry, for all that we need to lay down and all that we need to lift up. May we remember, even in our saddest moments, in our angriest moments, that we are still always held in love, held in the divine love of the universe and the specific, particular love of this community. May that hold us in this hour and in the days to come. Thank you, Juan. That is a song by Vienna Tang, who's one of my favorite singer-songwriters. It's called Soon, Love, Soon. And I got to hear her, I've heard her sing it many times, but I actually took a day off, everybody, and went to Evanston and saw her in December, and she pulled all of the songs for her set list out of a hat. And that's how she built her set list, and that was one of the ones that came out. And as she began playing it on the piano, she said, "Oh, I love this one. I haven't played it in a while. The funny thing is, the Unitarians pay me to play this for them on a regular basis." And I thought, it is a Unitarian Universalist song. Soon, love, soon, we will be as one God. We will be as one people. Thank you, Juan, who just like 3 days ago, while he was flying home from Columbia, was like, "Sure, I'll learn that and play it for you, Reverend Beth." I want to tell you a story of another song, though, that actually is sort of the heart of my message for you today. In the spring of 2017, and for those who can think back, like way before the pandemic, to what was happening in the spring of 2017, it was the very early days of the Trump administration. Yeah, thank you, I heard a big whoof. I was driving to work one morning, and on my local independent radio station, this fabulous song came on, and the lyrics grabbed me literally by the throat and held on to me, and I got to my office and immediately, before I did anything, went to YouTube and searched those lyrics and then listened to the song on repeat all day long. It's called One Light. It's by a Minneapolis-based hip-hop artist named Brother Ali, and the words that day that had grabbed me by the throat go like this: "I ain't buying fear just because it's all you've got left. When it's all said and it's all done, and I look back at the trophies I've won, I will only count one. using my heart for what hearts are for? Am I using my heart for what hearts are for? I had been asking my question that a long time by the spring of 2017. And in the spring of 2017, when I was filled with a whole lot of rage and fear and sadness, I began to feel like what my heart was for was just holding a lot of grief. And that song called me to remember that my heart maybe is for something more, because while yes, there was anger and sadness and grief at the fact that in 2017 it sure felt like the moral arc of the universe was no longer bending towards justice, at the fact that I knew people who had been working towards justice longer than I had been alive, and their work in 2017 suddenly got a whole lot harder than it had been 2 years before, I felt like, what is the point? And Brother Ali's message to not buy fear just because it's what somebody's selling, to remember what my heart is for, was exactly the message I needed in the spring of 2017. And I have found that I have needed it nearly every day since. Because the anger and the pain are real. We need to make space for them. Lama Rod Owens, who is an African-American Buddhist priest, eloquently talks about the relationship between our anger and liberation and love in his brilliant book, Love and Rage. And he says that too many of us, because of our identities, because of our lack of power in the world, have been taught that our anger has no purpose, that our rage is pointless, that our sadness just needs to be gotten over. And in Love and Rage, in his tradition as a Buddhist monk, he says, dear ones, there is more space than we know. And we have to have space for our anger, for our sadness, for our grief. And we have to remember, though, that there has to be space for more as well. If all we have is anger, we collapse in on ourselves, we burn out. So the spaciousness that Lama Rod talks about is the spaciousness of holding the tension of our anger and our hopes, of our sadness and our joys, the way we make space for here in our ritual of joys and sorrows. It is a spiritual practice that is often easier said than done. Because if we are indeed, collectively as a community, making space for joy and sorrow, for anger and pain and fear and hope, what that means is that we also must take risks. We have to risk speaking up. We have to risk conflict. We have to risk naming harms that we have done and that we have experienced. We have to risk challenging those in power. We're not doing that alone. Dr. King became a radical leader, not straight out of the gate. He was a preacher. He was an ordained Baptist minister in the Progressive Baptist movement who thought, I'm going to serve a congregation. And people said to him, here's what this moment needs. And he said, I can show up for that thing, and then the next thing, and the next thing, and he never showed up alone. And importantly, by the time 1964 rolled around, and the height of the civil rights movement was happening, and the American Civil Rights Act was passing, Dr. King was surrounded by people who were willing to say no to him, who were willing to take that risk and radical love. People like Ella Baker. Do you all know Ella Baker? I'll do another sermon on her, I promise. But Ella Baker, who was a leader also in the movement, Ella Baker, who was instrumental actually in forming the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, because what Ella Baker said is, it's great that these wonderful leaders and these well-trained, highly educated people are speaking to the media, are preaching great sermons, are giving lectures, but you know what is even better is that the people on the ground know that they also have power and a voice. And Ella Baker's work in the movement was to hold the official leader's feet to the fire and say, maybe you need to pass that microphone sometimes. She was not always appreciated for that work. But she took the risk. And it is hard. It is hard to take any risk. I'm sure that it wasn't easy for Ella Baker, who was often the only woman in the room when decisions were being made, to say, hey, everybody, slow down. But she took it. And it is easier said than done. We have good intentions, don't we? I look around this room, I see people who have been in the struggle for not just big picture justice, but even small, I don't want to call them small, that makes it sound unimportant. I'll call it very local acts of justice. It's hard, though, to always know what it is we should be doing, what it is we could be doing, what is the right thing to do right now. We don't always know. And when I look back at my life, I see so many times a path strewn with good intentions that fell short. Risks that I did not take. One that sticks with me and will stick with me forever. It's quite a few years ago, perhaps in 2018 or 19, so this is recent. We lived on a busy street in Milwaukee, and we were very close to a police station, and people got pulled over in front of our house all the time. And my husband and I watched for that, and there was one afternoon where two young black boys, they couldn't have been more than 17 or 18, got pulled over for God knows what. And my husband and I went out, started filming because the police made them get out of their car, and they were searching it. And we invited them onto our property to stand, and my husband started filming. And nothing happened, I do want to say that. They eventually were released and let go, so let me just share that with you. But I had a moment of uncertainty. I didn't know what my role was there. I didn't know what I could do. I didn't know if I was in the way, and I was uncomfortable and had stuff to do, so I went back inside to do my Saturday chores. And I'm grateful nothing bad happened in that moment. And I was so disappointed in myself for yielding the moment to witness. And I still don't know what the right thing to have done was. I just know that I hold that moment as a moment where I didn't take a risk that I maybe could have. And I share that with you because I think all of us have moments. We have moments both large and small of risks we didn't take, of things we didn't say. And we can use those as bludgeons against ourselves to say, this is proof you're not good enough. This is proof you don't care. This is proof that you are somehow a bad person. And it is not about being a good or bad person. It is not about having our regrets be weapons against us. It is about what James Baldwin said, how can we be the light sometimes, even when it has gone out of ourselves? It is about what Brother Ali says, you don't have to buy fear because somebody is selling it. You don't have to do all the work, you just have to learn from the moment you're in and say, oh, I could have shown a different light that time. Who can help me shine it better next? In the Christian theologies that our faith, Unitarian Universalism, was born into, there was a notion, and it still persists in some Christian theologies, that people need to be saved because we are born into original sin. We are born inherently sinful, which for some people, sin is a way of saying we are born separated from the love of the divine. And we have to be saved back into that. The notions that we are not good enough, that we can't do enough, that we don't do enough, those notions are embedded in that theology. You aren't good enough, so you have to do more. But our Universalist ancestors began to preach a different message in the 19th century in America, and they began to say, that doesn't make sense. If God is a God of love, then surely that means we all as people are born not into original sin, but into original blessing. We are born into original love. We are born loving and beloved. We are born with great love. And what that means for me, that great love means that then is what our hearts are for. Great love, that original blessing, original love we are born into as people, means that we have both a gift and an obligation that the universe bestows upon us. That gift of great love is actually what we owe the world. Because when we come together and say, what can I do? What does this world need? What we are asking is, what do I owe to the world? What do I owe to my fellow people? What do I owe to all of this life on this planet? And we are born owing a debt to this earth, which is our home and our body and our breath. I believe we are born owing a debt to the people unknown and known who make up our great human family. We are born owing a debt to that great web of life without which we would not exist. And these debts, these obligations, are interconnected gifts. They are not debts that hold us down. They are not obligations that we have to woefully fulfill. They are an invitation into joyful, wholehearted, loving, radical action. That we take action despite our fears, despite our uncertainties, and despite all of the mistakes that we have made and dear ones that we will keep making. We are not going to get it right. Whatever it is, the it of being in relationship with our loved ones, the it of being in relationship as a congregation, of staying in covenant, the it of making the world a more just place, we're not going to get it right. But we can keep doing what is in our hands to do. I have failed to live up to those ideals. You have. Our Unitarian Universalist faith tradition has failed, and we will keep showing up. Just like in the book we heard, something, someday, there is something we can do. And radical, liberating love is calling us to do that. Perhaps what radical, liberating love is calling us to do, if we are white people in the room, is to read Dr. King's letter from Birmingham jail. And to know that when he talks about his disappointment in white moderates, he is not talking about people in some other time, he is talking to us right now. Radical liberating love is to hear the voice of Ella Baker calling us in to examine and share power with those most disadvantaged. Radical love is calling us in the voice of James Baldwin to remember that we are a light for each other. It is calling us to remember, as Amanda Gorman's story says, that something is what is in our hands right now, and someday is right now. We do not have to buy fear just because it's what so many in the world are selling us. We can use our hearts for that great original love we are born into. And so maybe what that also means, as I said actually a few weeks ago, and as Reverend Sally's sermon echoed last week about, we show up and do what we in this community can do. And maybe that is contribute to our accessibility campaign. But maybe it's also that we show up and join the voices in this community who right now are organizing to demand a ceasefire in Palestine. Maybe it means you join the racial justice team as they look at how can we do reparations wholeheartedly. Maybe it means actually that you join our Pathways to Members class and begin to learn how to be more deeply connected to this congregation. Maybe it means you keep doing the good work you are already doing with wholehearted love. I asked you a couple weeks ago, for those who are here, to look around the room, and I'm going to invite you to do it again. Look around, make eye contact with someone in this room. These are the people in community with you. These people have a story. They have things they care about that you can care about, that you already do. We are holding each other. We are that mirror for each other that James Baldwin said. We are the light that we need. Sometimes the light will be dim. Sometimes it feels like it's going out, but remember, your heart is for loving. Your heart is for radical action. Your heart is for the beating, breathing, loving community we build when we come together. May it be so, and amen. So sorry, I forgot we're all singing a song together. A song we sang last week, and we're going to sing again next week, because this is our prayer, that we are building a new way together. We will sing the first 3 verses. Thank you, Juan, for making eye contact and being there. Somebody's got to tell him what to do. Friends, let us keep breathing. May we keep our eyes and ears open to the messages the world is sending, whether it's through a song or a kitten or our grandchildren's smiles. May we keep our hands outstretched to connect with others. May our heart beat with righteous anger and joyful song. And may we remember that this love is what our hearts are for. Now together, let's say our chalice extinguishing words from Reverend Elizabeth Sellis Jones. We extinguish this flame.